United States, a judge has ruled that one of the 6 officers involved in the arrest and subsequent death of Freddie Gray is not guilty. Gray's death in April last year in Baltimore set off more than a week of protests, some of them violent. Al Jazeera's Tom Ackerman is standing by in Washington, D.C. to tell us more about this case and the verdict. Tom, what's it all about?
Well, Officer Edward Nero had been charged with second-degree intentional assault, misconduct, and endangerment. Endangerment because he was accused of not, according to regulations, buckling in Freddie Gray into the van, and as a subsequence of that, he incurred fatal head injuries, and that caused his death in the ride to a police substation. The judge in the case, and this was a judge rather than a jury, ruled that he was not guilty on all counts, and he had expressed skepticism about the validity of the charges earlier in court last week. What's most interesting is that this was the officer who had been charged with the least serious counts in this whole case. There's 6 altogether. A mistrial had been declared in the first trial of an officer who the jury decided, and by the way, a majority of the jurors decided to acquit him. So the outlook for the prosecution in these cases is not looking particularly good, in particular because the judge expressed serious doubt about whether there were any underlying reasons for such a serious charge. In particular, whether it was the duty, in fact, for them to secure Freddie Gray in the van with a seatbelt when, according to the defense, the officers hadn't even been notified that that was a newly found regulation, a newly posted regulation. Now, the next charge, the next officer to be charged is the most seriously charged. He's charged with what's called, actually it's a murder charge, but depraved murder is what they call it in the state of Maryland, and he's due to go on trial in a couple of weeks. But again, the question is whether that man, who was not even accused of touching Freddie Gray, he was simply the driver of the van. He's being charged with the most serious counts, and the outlook here is not very good for the prosecution. Meanwhile, civic officials and politicians in the city of Baltimore have counseled all people in the streets not to resort to violence if they feel that they are frustrated by the outcome of this trial as well as the previous trial. Adrian?
Tom, many thanks. Tom Ackerman there in Washington.